Welcome to another Savage video. In this one, I'm going to talk about the recently released or the recently announced Linzhi Inc. ASIC miner for Ethereum that they're dubbing the Phoenix. So we're going to get into that, and we're also going to talk about whether or not GPU miners should be concerned about this news. In a little bit of a surprise move, I say surprise because of Ethereum moving to proof of stake, ETH2 and all that beacon chain jazz. Anyway, Linzhi Inc. just announced the rollout of their new ETHASH ASIC miner that they're dubbing the Phoenix. That's 3 times more powerful than the best ETH ASIC miner currently available. They've been working on this thing for a couple of years now, and just now are talking about releasing it, and with a little bit of data here as well. Now, ASIC stands for application-specific integrated circuit, and it's basically, just think of it as a specialized circuit designed to perform a single function and do it very well. It was intended that the ETHASH algorithm would be ASIC resistant, or at least ASIC inefficient, enough that it wouldn't make sense to make a ASIC for it. But it looks like they figured out how to gain some efficiencies and make it possibly a little worrisome, a little bit. By they, I mean the 5 people that work at Linzhi. They have about 5 additional part-timers, so about 10 people total. It is a fabless company, which means that they are only designing and not actually manufacturing ASICs. So they are affected by the same supply chain issues and roadblocks as everyone else. They are basically just the designers. Besides the ugly color and lack of cable management, this cable management here is like Red Panda mining cable management. The device looks solid and well built. It's a 2-stack or dual stack with 2 large fans and 2 ASIC boards. The fans look pretty beefy there. It has gigabit Ethernet. It's got an SD card slot for firmware install or OS install so that it can boot up into multiple configurations. It has 10 6-pin power connections. So it requires 2 1500 watt PSUs, power supply units, basically 1 per ASIC board. There's 2 ASIC boards. It also has this some type of a pass-through port for additional fans, maybe on the bottom or something. There's some, they talk about it in this video here. There's something else on the bottom that might provide power to additional fans, I believe is what they said. It's looking like the Phoenix will get around 2700 megahash per second on Ethereum at 2930 watts, which is an astounding 0.92 megahash per watt. That's very close to the once unthinkable, the once unfathomable 1 megahash per watt. That's incredibly efficient. For some perspective though, basically it's 30 RTX 3080s. But those 30 RTX 3080s would be pulling more than twice the amount of power at around 6,600 watts. 6,600 watts. So you can clearly see the efficiency gained by this particular ASIC. It's also the equivalent of about 51 RX 5700 XTs. Well, if it's actually more like about 48 if Crypto Pope was the one tuning them, because he's just a straight up savage. That'd be about 7,100 watts. It's also the equivalent to about 86 RX 580s, and that'd be about 11,000 watts. We'll look at those numbers maybe a little bit later on what to mine or something. Now, the one big complaint, or the one thing you might notice right away, is that the Phoenix only has 4.4 gig of memory, which puts its Ethereum mining end of life at around April of 2021, April of next year, unless the device can utilize the entire 4.4 gigabytes for the DAG. Then it'd be sometime, say in August, sometime around August. The DAG is the directed acyclic graph and file, and all you really need to know is that it has to be loaded into memory. It has to be loaded into the mining device's memory for the Ethereum protocol to function properly. It's a file that's referenced by the miner to validate blocks. So either way, we are dealing with a short time frame use of this device. It looks like they are marketing it to last, they being Linzhi, are marketing it to last at least a year on Ethereum and possibly having upgrades as well. Maybe a memory upgrade, maybe some type of memory upgrade would be quite nice to have it work a little bit longer than just less than a year. The closest competitors for comparison purposes are the Silicon A10 Pro ETH miner. This one in particular is getting 500 megahash per second at 860 watts. Or you could also look at the newer, upgraded Silicon A10 Pro 6 gigabyte getting 720 megahash at 1300 watts. This one's not yet available though. And the 6 gigabyte version is a refurb where they've taken the original regular A10 Pro and fixed it up with more memory. So it might be on the outside, it might be a little bit banged up. So if you are ordering one of these, keep that in mind. Now I'm not 100% sure on the 720 megahash per second because on their website they actually show it as 500. See down here? 500 megahash for this particular model. This is the Silicon A10 Pro ETH miner with 6 gig. So I was thinking that this one would be the one that has 720, but it doesn't say that down here. Maybe they just haven't updated this. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong one. But yeah, so it's something's not jiving there, but that's okay. I mean, it might not be okay. I don't know. So as far as cost goes, it's looking like the Linzhi Phoenix is going to cost, if I was to guess, I would say it's going to cost around $10,000 to $15,000 USD. That would be my guess. Initially, my estimate was way more than that. I think I chimed in on a live stream chat and said that it would be like 24,000, but that was just based on its profitability calculations at the time. I kind of have done a little bit more research and it's looking like it might be 10 to 15K, 10 to 15,000 USD. So what could you expect to earn after spending $10,000 to $15,000 on this miner, and for how long, right? That's the important part of this. So it's looking like right now, if you go over to MinerStat and you go plug in, I think they actually have this as one of their selections. You can actually choose the Linzhi Phoenix mining calculator, and you got 2600 watts here. It's actually the miner in the video is actually closer to 2700, I believe, but anyway, so 2600, 3000 watts is a little bit less than that in the video. And if you plug in my power cost at 10.3 and then we'll go calculate, this thing is clearing $151 a day in profit right now. That is pretty strong. So let's look at some comparable GPUs on what to mine. If we come over here and we plug in some numbers here based on what I said earlier as far as how many. So let's say you have, it's basically one of these devices, one of these Phoenix ASIC miners is 5700 XTs. You can see down here the immediate calculations is 2626 megahash, 2.6 gig, and 7,140 watts. So if you plug in my cost per kilowatt, calculate, you can see it's going to show you about $91 after power. So you see here with those GPUs, the 5700s, because of the power, the increased power for the same amount of hash rate, you're only going to get $91 compared to $151, right, per day. And that's with 5700 XTs. Then if you go with the 3080s, it's basically 3080s. You can see the values over here switch to 2600 megahash, almost 2700 at 6600 watts. Do a calculate there. So 95, a little bit better than the 5700s, but not enough to really make too much of a difference. And then you also have the 86580s, and with those you're only going to get $80 a day after power. So you can see huge amounts of efficiency out of this ASIC. So let's talk about some questions you might have. As I was looking into this, one of the first questions I had was, will it mine ETC hash, or what other coins will it mine? Apparently, it will mine Ethereum Classic. Right here, it actually mentions it right here. There's a card. It actually comes with both cards, both SD cards. One is Ethereum Classic, one is Ethereum. So depending on which one you want to mine, you would put in the appropriate SD card. So that's kind of cool. Okay, great. I would assume that if you wanted to mine another project besides Ethereum, that you could, as long as it was ETH hash. And possibly if something else uses ETC hash, then you would be able to mine that project as well, just using the appropriate SD card. Some other questions you might have is, how long does it take to start up? How long does it take to warm up and start hashing? Because an Ethereum ASIC usually takes a while to start up due to the DAG file having to load. So this one, it looks like it takes about 40 minutes from power on until it actually starts hashing. And you can see down here in this video that the DAG is not started, it's not loaded here. So see how this is not green? So if you flip over here to, they walked back in after about 40 minutes. Here it says 3 hours and 17 minutes because they wanted to get some stability here. But before this, they mention, she mentions going in here after about 40 minutes. And what I noticed, it looks like the room is smoky. I don't know, is it just me or what? But it looks a little smoky to me, but I don't know what that means. Maybe it's just the camera. But yeah, so it's been running about 40 minutes at this time, I believe. So you can see here, let me go forward a little bit. You can see that the DAG is loaded here. So it's all up and running. Some other questions you might have are, how many are they gonna make? I did a little bit of research. I tried to find out. It looks like they are not going to make that many. That this is going to be kind of a limited run. It's a super small company without a huge amount of resources and backing and all that stuff. So I don't know how many units, but it seems like there's just not going to be that many. So that's actually a plus for us GPU miners. Another question would be, how loud is it? Don't know. Those fans look pretty beefy. It sounded kind of loud whenever she walked into the room while it was powered on, but I don't believe that they give any information like that just yet. So we'll probably have to wait for some further testing to, the decibel levels and stuff like that to figure out exactly how loud this thing is. Some other things you could mine with it. It looks like, obviously anything ETH hash, I believe we will be able to mine with this. So you would probably be able to point it at nice hash, for example, for probably the maximum profit. Once it can no longer mine Ethereum because the DAG file size is going to be larger than 4.4 gig fairly soon. You're looking at, if it needs the full 4.4 gig for the DAG, or if it has it available for the DAG, that'll put it off into August, September of next year. But if there's any portion of that it can't use for the DAG, like let's say 0.2 gig, then you're looking at as early as April, May, sometime in there. So not a very long time. But there are other projects that you'll be able to mine with it, for sure. It's looking like, anyway. I would assume that you'll be able to configure your miner, point to the appropriate pool and reference the appropriate coin, and I believe that it will work just fine. So what are some issues with it? Well, here's that port. I don't know if this is like a pass-through port or if this is some type of power connection for more fans. I don't know what that is right there. She mentions it, but very briefly. For me, there's some really awful cable management on the fans that I mentioned earlier. Let's see if I can pull those up so you can see what I'm talking about here. Yeah, see this right here? Basically the power cables for the fans are just kind of dangling, you know, out there. And that's kind of a risk for me because I'm pretty clumsy, so I could easily damage one of those or multiple power cables there. So I'd like to see that cleaned up a little bit. Kind of a bonus that I'm seeing here is that it doesn't appear as though these innosilicons can mine Ethereum Classic. Because if you go through the list here, they don't list Ethereum Classic anywhere in here. So I'm thinking that they cannot, right? Because again, these probably don't have that SD card that you can boot to different, or it might have the SD card, but it doesn't have, they haven't made an Ethereum Classic firmware for it yet, I guess is the correct way to say it. So in summary, this is a very efficient Ethereum ASIC miner that's being released by Linzhi. Should GPU miners panic? Honestly, I would say no. There will most likely be a trivial number of these devices on the network, not enough to worry about too much from a GPU mining standpoint. What about the video released on Saturday from F2 Pool that I've been referencing here? They seem to have already had one of these devices, which is fine. Why aren't they selling the devices to the public yet if the pools are getting them? And are they self-mining? It sounds like, from my little bit of research here, that Linzhi only has capacity for about 80 kilowatts or about 27 of these Phoenix ASICs, contributing a potential total of about 72 gigahash to the Ethereum network, which basically equates to about 0.02% of the total network hash rate at the moment. So in the overall scheme of things, it's fairly insignificant amount, even if they are self-mining. Yes, it would be nice to get it out there, but you know, they are definitely testing these miners. Okay, I know that that's kind of like one of those tongue-in-cheek kind of things that us GPU miners talk about ASIC miners doing, but with Linzhi, they have a super high quality standard, and they don't really want to release the miner to the public with it being unstable, untested, and all that stuff. So they don't want to damage their reputation. They want to put really solid devices out there. And this is not sponsored, guys, at all. This is just the research that I've done on my own and how I feel about this particular company and this particular miner. This is not sponsored at all. It just seems like they're a super small company that's trying to do something cool, something good, you know, and also designing something that no one else has designed. That's what it seems like, you know. And yeah, I think that they've done a pretty good job here. It's not something that you would have to worry about too much as a GPU miner affecting the network or rewards with this particular device. The real threat is other larger players manufacturing similar devices and producing many more of the units, right? If InnoSilicon or Bitmain got close in efficiency and were able to produce thousands of devices at similar prices, we'd likely feel the impact of that through you know, decreased mining rewards. I don't think that Linzhi by themselves are going to have enough of these devices to really make a huge difference. But man, if InnoSilicon or Bitmain got in there, it would be bad for mining rewards. All right, so if you found this video helpful or at least entertaining, please be sure to subscribe, like, share, click the notification bell, all that cool stuff, so you don't miss anything. Let's keep the conversation going down in the comments below. What do you think about this miner and how it will affect the Ethereum mining landscape? Let me know in the comments below. Stay savage, everybody.